sound cut through the 1:47 a.m. silence like a blade. Cooper's eyes snapped open in the darkness, his phone buzzing against the nightstand with that particular insistence that meant trouble. He'd been married to Isabella for 3 years, long enough to know that texts at this hour never brought good news. Rolling over, he squinted at the screen. The message was from Isabella, who was supposed to be at her sister's place for the weekend. What he saw made his blood freeze. A photo. Isabella in a white dress, beaming next to Charles, his former best friend, both holding what looked like marriage certificates. The Vegas chapel backdrop was unmistakable. The text below read, "Just got hitched to Charles. Surprise! Thanks for being such a joke. Have a blast in your sad little world. XOXO." Cooper stared at the screen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Isabella, Charles, married. In Vegas. While he'd been home, working late on the Henderson project, trusting his wife was having sister time with Camilla, his hands didn't shake. That surprised him. Instead, a cold clarity washed over him like ice water. He sat up in bed, bare feet touching the hardwood floor, and walked to the kitchen. The refrigerator hummed. Shadows stretched across the granite countertops he'd paid for in the house he'd bought before meeting Isabella. He typed back, "Okay." Then he went to his home office. Cooper had always been methodical. It's what made him successful in financial planning. The ability to see the big picture while managing every detail. Now, bathed in the blue glow of his monitor, he applied that same precision to dismantling his marriage. First, the credit cards. Isabella had been an authorized user on 3 accounts. Her shopping habits had always irritated him. $200 at Target for essentials, $150 dinner she'd Instagram with hashtags like #treatmyself. At 2:05 a.m., he removed her from each account with clinical efficiency. Next, the joint accounts. They'd pooled their money 18 months ago, when Isabella had suggested it would be more romantic to share everything. Cooper had earned most of it. His salary as a senior financial advisor at Meridian Wealth Management was 6 figures, while Isabella's part-time gig at a boutique marketing firm brought in maybe $30,000. Still, he'd agreed because marriage meant partnership. Except partnership implied loyalty. He transferred $74,000 from their joint checking and savings accounts to his personal account. Left her exactly $47.83, the balance she'd contributed last month from her boutique job. Then came the passwords. Email accounts, cloud storage, streaming services, their shared photo albums. Isabella had always been careless with technology, letting him handle their digital life. She'd trusted him with everything. As he changed each password, Cooper felt something he hadn't expected. Relief. Like removing a splinter he'd carried for months without realizing it was there. At 3:30 a.m., he called Secure Lock Services. They advertised 24/7 availability, and Cooper was about to test that claim. "I need all the locks changed on my house," he told the dispatcher. "Emergency service." "Sir, it's 3:30 in the morning. Our emergency rate is, I don't care what it costs." The locksmith arrived at 4:15 a.m., a tired-looking man named Pete who didn't ask questions. While Pete worked, Cooper made coffee and systematically photographed everything he was doing. Screenshots of the transfers, timestamps of the password changes, photos of the new locks being installed. Evidence. By 5:30 a.m., Cooper's house was secure. Isabella's key would no longer work. Her credit cards were dead. Her access to their shared digital life was severed. He emailed copies of everything to himself at his work account, then to his personal backup email. Then he printed the evidence. The marriage certificate photo, the gloating text message, the bank transfer records. At 6 a.m., he showered and got ready for work, as if this were any other Friday. Because in a way, it was. His new life was starting. Cooper made it through the workday on autopilot. He sat through meetings, reviewed client portfolios, and responded to emails with the same professional competence he'd maintained for 7 years at Meridian. His colleagues noticed nothing unusual. "Great work on the Henderson restructure," his boss Sarah mentioned around 2 p.m. "The client was impressed with your attention to detail." Attention to detail. If only Sarah knew how much attention Cooper had paid to details in the past 12 hours. He left the office at 5:30 p.m. sharp and stopped at the grocery store. He bought ingredients for Isabella's favorite dinner, salmon, asparagus, that expensive wine she liked. Then he drove home and prepared everything with the same methodical care he'd applied to destroying their financial partnership. The salmon was perfectly cooked. The asparagus had just the right amount of snap. The wine was properly chilled. Cooper ate alone, watching Gordon Ramsay berate incompetent chefs on the Food Network. He found the irony amusing, a professional showing amateurs how their carelessness had consequences. At 11 a.m. Saturday, right on schedule, the pounding started. Cooper was in the kitchen, sipping iced tea and watching Gordon rescue another failing restaurant, when Isabella began hammering on the front door. "Cooper, what the heck is wrong with my key?" He turned up the volume on the TV. Gordon was explaining to a delusional restaurant owner why his customers kept leaving. "I know you're in there. Open this door." Cooper walked to the front door, checking his phone. 11:02 a.m. Isabella had always been punctual when she wanted something. "You got married," he said through the door. "In Vegas?" "That's not—" "Cooper, let me in. We need to talk." "About what? Your reception at the Bellagio buffet?" Silence. Then, "How did you—" "Never mind. Just open the door." Cooper unlocked the door and opened it. Isabella stood on the porch, still in yesterday's clothes, mascara smudged, holding her useless key. She looked like she'd slept in an airport. "Hi, wife," Cooper said. Isabella pushed past him into the house. "This is ridiculous. You can't just change the locks." "I can. I did." Cooper closed the door. "Want some coffee? I made a fresh pot." "I don't want coffee." "I want to know why you're acting like a psycho." Cooper walked to the kitchen, Isabella following. He poured himself more iced tea, added a slice of lemon. "You married Charles. Congratulations." It was a mistake. We were drunk." "It's not real." "The certificate looked real. Very official." Isabella's face flushed. "You're being impossible. This is my house, too." "No," Cooper said, taking a sip of tea. "This is my house. I bought it 2 years before we met. You moved in." "There's a difference. We're married." "Were, past tense. You upgraded." Isabella stared at him. "I want to get my clothes, my things." "Of course. They're in the garage. I packed everything last night." "You packed my—" Isabella's voice cracked. "You can't just throw me out." Cooper set down his glass. "I'm not throwing you out. You left. You got married to someone else. You sent me a photo to make sure I knew." "I was angry." "You never pay attention to me. You're always working. You treat me like I'm some kind of accessory." "So you married my best friend." "Charles gets me. He listens to me. He makes me feel special." Cooper nodded slowly. "That's nice. I hope you'll be very happy together." Isabella's expression shifted, confusion replacing anger. "You're not fighting for me. For you. Isabella, you literally married someone else." "But I thought you'd be upset." "Fight for us." Cooper walked to the freezer, pulled out a pitcher of ice water. "I was upset for about 5 minutes. Then I realized something." "What?" "I felt relief." Isabella's mouth opened, but no words came out. Cooper continued. "For months, I've been walking on eggshells, wondering why you were so distant, why you snapped at everything I said, why you spent so much time at your sister's. Now, I know, you were already gone." "Cooper, so thank you for being honest. Finally." Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "I made a mistake. Charles and we were drunk and you decided to get married. And then you decided to send me a photo. And then you decided to tell me to have a blast in my sad little world." Cooper lifted the pitcher. "Which part was the mistake?" "All of it. I was angry and hurt, and—" Cooper poured the ice water over her head. Isabella shrieked, water cascading down her face and soaking her wrinkled dress. "You psycho! You just assaulted me! I gave you a cold drink. You looked thirsty. I'm calling the police." "Good idea. I'll wait." Isabella stood dripping in his kitchen, shivering and furious. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. "I need police at 1247 Maple Street. My husband just assaulted me." 20 minutes later, 2 officers arrived, a weary-looking sergeant named Williams and a younger officer named Torres. Isabella met them at the door, still damp but having found a dish towel to wrap around her shoulders. "Officers, thank God, my husband has lost his mind. He changed the locks. He threw water on me. He's keeping me from my own home." Sergeant Williams looked at Cooper, who stood calmly in the doorway. "Sir, what's your side of this?" Cooper handed him a folder. My wife married someone else yesterday. In Las Vegas. I have the photo she sent me at 1:47 a.m. to announce it. This is my house, purchased in 2019. Here's the deed. Here's the marriage certificate she's holding in the photo. Here's the text message she sent me. Williams studied the documents. Ma'am, it says here you got married to a Charles Davidson yesterday. That was a mistake. I was drunk. But you sent this photo to your husband. Isabella's face crumpled. I was angry. Officer Torres stepped forward. Sir, did you throw something at your wife? A pitcher of water. I poured it on her. Why? Cooper thought about it. She seemed overheated. Williams suppressed what might have been a smile. Ma'am, this is a civil matter. If you want to contest the property division, you'll need to file with family court. But he assaulted me. With water, Torres said. From a pitcher, while you were standing in his kitchen, in his house. After you married someone else. Isabella looked between the officers. You're not going to arrest him? For what? Making it rain indoors? After the police left, Cooper expected peace. Instead, he got a parade. At 2:30 p.m., Isabella returned with reinforcements. Her mother, Carol, a brittle woman who'd always treated Cooper like he was contaminated, her sister Camilla, who nodded along with whatever Isabella said, and Charles, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. They gathered in Cooper's driveway like a suburban war council. This is harassment, Carol announced, her voice carrying across the neighborhood. Legally, this is still Isabella's home. Cooper stepped onto his porch. Actually, Carol, legally, it's not. But I'm sure you know that, being a former real estate agent. Don't you dare talk down to me! I'm talking at exactly the right level. Would you like me to get a step stool? Camilla stepped forward. Cooper, this is insane. Isabella made a mistake. Isabella made a choice, several choices. All of them carefully documented. Charles finally spoke. Look, man, I know this is messed up, but what, Charles? You're going to explain how you accidentally married my wife? It wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? You were going to ask my permission first? Isabella pushed past her mother. I'm entitled to half of everything. Community property. Cooper laughed. This isn't California, Isabella, and we signed a prenup, remember? You said it was romantic that I trusted you enough to protect both of us. That prenup is invalid. According to who? Your sister? Your mother? Charles? Carol stepped forward. According to our lawyer. You don't have a lawyer, Carol. You have a cousin who does personal injury. There's a difference. We'll see about that. Cooper shrugged. I look forward to it. Charles, how was the reception? I heard the Bellagio buffet has excellent shrimp. Charles looked sick. There wasn't no reception. That's disappointing. What about the honeymoon? Stop it, Isabella said. Stop what? Asking about your marriage? Isn't that what people do? Ask about your special day? Camilla tried to mediate. Cooper, everyone's emotional right now. Maybe we should what? Pretend this didn't happen? Isabella sent me a photo, Camilla. She wanted me to know. She wanted to hurt me. Mission accomplished. She did mean it. She typed out that message. She chose her words carefully. Thanks for being such a joke. Have a blast in your sad little world. That's not something you say by accident. Isabella started crying. I was drunk. You were drunk when you got married. You were drunk when you took the photo. You were drunk when you typed the message. You were drunk when you hit send. That's a lot of drunk decisions, Isabella. Cooper turned to Charles. How's married life treating you? Day 2 of wedded bliss? Charles looked like he might vomit. We're not what? Not married? Because I have documentation that says otherwise. We're getting it annulled. Interesting. Does Isabella know that? Isabella whirled on Charles. What do you mean, annulled? I mean, baby, we talked about this. It was a mistake. A mistake? You said you loved me. I do love you, but you want to annul our marriage? Cooper watched this unfold with the detached interest of someone watching a nature documentary. The suburban family unit was dissolving in real time. This is perfect, he said. You two work this out. I'll be inside. He started toward the door, then turned back. Oh, Isabella, your stuff is in the garage. Everything's boxed and labeled. I even wrapped the fragile items in bubble wrap. You can't just, I can, I did. And unless you want to add trespassing to your impressive list of accomplishments, I suggest you collect your belongings and leave. Sunday morning brought the U-Haul. Cooper watched from his bedroom window as Isabella and Charles struggled with the rental truck. Isabella was directing, badly, while Charles did the heavy lifting. Camilla had come to help, but she was more interested in her phone than the boxes. The scene got interesting when Isabella's credit card was declined at the U-Haul counter. Cooper couldn't hear the conversation, but he could see Isabella's animated gestures, the cashier's apologetic shrugs, and Charles's wallet emerging with obvious reluctance. It was, Cooper reflected, the look of a man realizing his affair came with a copay. The actual moving took 3 hours. Cooper had indeed packed everything carefully, clothes sorted by type, books boxed by size, even her collection of scented candles wrapped individually. He'd found some things he'd forgotten about. Love letters from an ex-boyfriend, receipts for dinners she'd claimed were work meetings, a journal with entries about how boring Cooper was. He'd packed those items too, everything in its proper place. When they finished loading, Isabella came to the door one last time. Cooper, please. Can we talk? Really talk? About what? About us, about fixing this. Cooper looked at her, really looked. She was beautiful, he'd always known that. It's what had attracted him first, her laugh and her smile and the way she moved through the world like she belonged everywhere. But beauty without loyalty was just decoration. There's nothing to fix, Isabella. You made your choice. I made a mistake. You made several mistakes. Getting married was just the most recent one. She started crying again. I love you. No, you don't. You love what I represented. Security, stability, a nice house and a reliable income. But you don't love me. That's not true. It is true. If you loved me, you wouldn't have married Charles. If you loved me, you wouldn't have sent me that photo. If you loved me, you wouldn't have written in your journal about how boring I am. Isabella's face went white. You read my journal? I packed your journal. Hard not to notice when it's open to a page about how you're stuck with someone who has no passion for life. I didn't mean. You meant it. And you know what? You were right. I am boring. I work hard, I pay bills, I keep my promises. If that's not exciting enough for you, then you made the right choice. Isabella wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now you go live your exciting life with Charles. And I'll go live my boring life alone. Cooper! Goodbye, Isabella. He closed the door and watched through the window as she walked back to the U-Haul. Charles was waiting, looking impatient. They had a brief, heated conversation. Then Isabella climbed into the passenger seat. The truck pulled away, taking 3 years of marriage with it. Cooper felt empty, but it was a clean emptiness, like a room after the furniture's been removed. Space for something new. Monday morning, Cooper called his friend Zeke, who worked in IT forensics. I need a favor. What kind of favor? The kind where you recover deleted text messages from my wife's phone backup. Zeke was quiet for a moment. Cooper, man, that's some serious spy crap. Are you sure you want to go down that road? I'm sure. Okay, but whatever I find, you might not like it. I already don't like it. I just want to know how much I shouldn't like it. Zeke worked his magic over the weekend. Monday evening, he called with results. Dude, you were right to be suspicious. I found months of deleted messages between Isabella and Charles. And some others. Others? She was talking to 3 different guys. Charles was just the one who said yes to Vegas. Zeke emailed the recovered messages. Cooper read them Tuesday night, each one a small knife twist. Isabella to Charles. Cooper is so clueless. He actually thinks I go to Camilla's every weekend. Charles to Isabella. What if he finds out? Isabella to Charles. He won't. He's too busy with his spreadsheets to notice anything. Isabella to someone named Ryan. I need to figure out how to get half of everything without looking like the bad guy. Ryan to Isabella. Document everything. Make him look controlling. Isabella to Charles. I took money from the joint account. He doesn't check it anyway. Charles to Isabella. How much? Isabella to Charles. Just a few hundred each time. He makes so much he won't notice. There were dozens of messages, months of planning, plotting, and plain old theft. Isabella had been systematically draining their joint account for her affairs. She'd been building a case against Cooper, looking for ways to make him seem unreasonable. The Vegas marriage wasn't spontaneous. It was calculated. Cooper printed everything. Then he called Arthur Brennan, the best divorce attorney in the city. "Arthur, I need representation." "Cooper, good to hear from you. What's the situation?" "My wife married someone else in Vegas. I have documentation." Arthur was quiet for a long moment. "She married someone else while still married to you?" "Correct." "That's bold. When can you come in?" "Tomorrow." Arthur's office was downtown, 30 floors up with a view of the river. Arthur himself was a silver-haired man in his 50s who'd built his reputation on being thorough, aggressive, and expensive. "This is fascinating," Arthur said, reviewing Cooper's evidence. "I've seen adultery cases, but bigamy? That's a new one. What are our options?" "Well, technically, she's committed a felony. Bigamy is illegal in Nevada." "I don't want her arrested. I just want out." "Fair enough. But this gives us tremendous leverage." "She can't claim to be the wrong party when she's literally married to someone else." Arthur leaned back in his chair. "You mentioned a prenup?" "Standard agreement. What's mine stays mine. What's hers stays hers. She'll try to challenge it. Let her try." "Cooper, I have to ask, are you sure about this? Divorce is expensive and exhausting." "Sometimes people work things out." Cooper thought about the recovered messages. Isabella laughing about his cluelessness. Isabella stealing from their joint account. Isabella planning to take half of everything he'd worked for. "I'm sure." "All right then, let's destroy her." The next few days brought what Arthur called the extinction burst. Isabella's final desperate attempts to regain control. First, her father called Cooper's boss. "Sarah, I'm getting a very strange call about you," Sarah said, closing Cooper's office door. "Someone named Frank, claiming to be your father-in-law, says you're having a mental breakdown." Cooper sighed. "My wife married someone else." "Her father thinks I should be okay with it." Sarah blinked. "She married someone else?" "In Vegas. I have photos." "That's... wow. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually." "Take whatever time you need. This company has your back." That night, Isabella tried to break into the house. Cooper's new security system caught her at 2:17 a.m., trying to jimmy the back door with what looked like a credit card. He called the police. "Same officers as before?" Officer Torres asked when he arrived. "Different crime, same criminal." Isabella was arrested for attempted breaking and entering. She spent 6 hours in jail before Charles bailed her out. The mugshot made the local news website. Then Isabella called Cooper's mother. "Cooper, your mother is very upset," his mom said when she called. "Isabella came by today crying about how you've lost your mind." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that any woman who marries someone else while she's still married to my son shouldn't be surprised when consequences follow. And that she should have the day she deserves." Cooper smiled. His mother had always been perceptive. The final straw came Thursday evening. Cooper was grading some client reports when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Is this Cooper?" "Yes. This is Gina Novak, Charles's mother." Cooper sat up. "How can I help you, Mrs. Novak?" "It's time for you to be the bigger man and take Isabella back." Cooper was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry. What?" "This whole situation is ridiculous. Isabella made a mistake, and you're punishing everyone for it." "Charles is miserable. Isabella is staying in my son's apartment, and frankly, I'm tired of the drama." "So you want me to take back my wife who married your son?" "I want you to act like an adult." Cooper set down his pen. "Mrs. Novak, your son married my wife. It was a mistake." "Your son held the detonator, Mrs. Novak. He chose to pull the pin." "If he's miserable, maybe he should have thought about that before he decided to get married in Vegas." "Isabella says you're being vindictive." "Isabella would know about vindictive. She's the one who sent me a photo of her wedding to make sure I knew she was betraying me." "That's between you and her." "No, it's between me and her and your son and a family court judge." "Which reminds me, I need to get back to preparing for court." "Wait." Cooper hung up. The court date was set for December 15th. Family court. Judge Catherine Albright presiding. Cooper arrived at 9 a.m. sharp, wearing his best suit. Arthur met him at the courthouse steps. Ready for this? More than ready. They entered the courthouse together. Isabella was already there with her representation, a young lawyer named Peterson who looked like he'd passed the bar last week. Is that their attorney? Cooper asked. That's their attorney. Peterson graduated from a third-tier law school 6 months ago. This is probably his first divorce case. Should I feel bad? Feel bad for Isabella. She's about to get a very expensive education. Judge Albright was a stern woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She'd been on the family court bench for 20 years and had, according to Arthur, seen every form of human stupidity imaginable. This is case number 2024, DR 8847, Davidson versus Davidson, she announced. Petitioner seeks dissolution of marriage on grounds of adultery. Your Honor, Peterson stood up. My client disputes the characterization of adultery, the relationship with Mr. Davidson developed after the marriage had already broken down. Judge Albright looked at him over her glasses. Mr. Peterson, are you seriously arguing that your client's marriage to another man while still married to the petitioner doesn't constitute adultery? The Vegas marriage was a mistake, Your Honor. My client was intoxicated and photographed herself holding a marriage certificate, which she then sent to her husband with a message gloating about the betrayal. Peterson looked at his notes. Your Honor, my client was emotional. Mr. Brennan, please present your evidence. Arthur stood up with the calm confidence of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Your Honor, the evidence is straightforward. The respondent married Charles Davidson in Las Vegas on November 23rd. She documented this marriage and sent photographic evidence to my client at 1:47 a.m. on November 24th, along with a message that read, and I quote, "Thanks for being such a joke. Have a blast in your sad little world." He handed the judge a folder. The marriage certificate, the photograph, and the text message are all included in Exhibit A. Judge Albright reviewed the documents. Mr. Peterson, how do you respond to this evidence? Your Honor, the message was taken out of context. What context makes "thanks for being such a joke" acceptable in a marriage? Peterson looked helpless. My client was hurt and angry, so she married someone else and sent proof to her husband to maximize the cruelty. Your Honor, Mr. Peterson, sit down. Mr. Brennan, continue. Arthur smiled. Your Honor, we also have recovered text messages showing that the respondent had been planning this betrayal for months. She systematically stole money from joint accounts, conducted multiple affairs, and plotted to take half of my client's assets despite contributing virtually nothing to the marriage. Objection. Peterson stood up again. That's characterization. Sustained. Mr. Brennan, stick to facts. Of course, Your Honor. The facts are that the respondent removed $2,847 from joint accounts over 6 months for what she described in text messages as date money. She conducted affairs with multiple men, including Charles Davidson, whom she eventually married. She documented everything, including her own adultery. Arthur handed the judge another folder. Exhibit B contains the recovered messages. Judge Albright spent several minutes reading. Her expression grew more disapproving with each page. Miss Davidson, did you write these messages? Isabella stood up, tears streaming down her face. Your Honor, I was unhappy in my marriage. That's not what I asked. Did you write these messages? Yes, but... Did you take money from joint accounts for what you called date money? I needed... Yes or no? Yes. Did you marry Charles Davidson while still married to Cooper Davidson? It was a mistake. Yes or no? Isabella looked at Peterson, who shrugged helplessly. Yes. Judge Albright set down the papers. Miss Davidson, in 20 years on this bench, I have never seen such a deliberate and calculated betrayal of marriage vows. You didn't just commit adultery, you committed bigamy. You didn't just steal from your husband, you mocked him for not noticing. You didn't just break your marriage, you took a photograph to make sure he knew you were breaking it. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Then, after documenting your own crimes, you had the audacity to claim you were the victim. You tried to have your husband arrested for pouring water on you. You brought your family to harass him at his own home. You attempted to break into his house. You had your father call his employer to try to get him fired. Isabella was sobbing now. What you wanted was to have your cake and eat it too. You wanted the security of marriage with the excitement of multiple affairs. You wanted your husband's money, but not your husband. You wanted to hurt him, but not face consequences. Judge Albright looked at her notes. The court finds clear and convincing evidence of adultery, bigamy, and financial misconduct. The marriage is dissolved immediately. The prenuptial agreement is valid and enforceable. Peterson stood up. Your Honor, regarding alimony? Yes, let's discuss alimony. Mr. Brennan, what are you seeking? Arthur smiled. Your Honor, given the respondent's conduct, we're seeking alimony from the respondent to my client. She stole nearly $3,000 from joint accounts. She cost him attorney fees. She caused him emotional distress. We believe she should compensate him for her misconduct. Your Honor, that's ridiculous, Peterson protested. Is it? Judge Albright asked. She stole from him. She betrayed him. She mocked him. She harassed him. Why shouldn't she compensate him? Because she's a woman? Mr. Peterson, equality means equality. If a man had done what your client did, would you argue he shouldn't pay alimony? Peterson looked sick. No, Your Honor. Then why should your client be treated differently? The court awards alimony in the amount of $500 per month for 1 year, payable by the respondent to the petitioner. Isabella gasped. I have to pay him. You have to pay him. Consider it a stupid tax. Judge Albright banged her gavel. Court is adjourned. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Isabella's mother confronted Cooper outside the courthouse. This is vindictive. You're destroying a young woman's life. Carol, your daughter destroyed her own life. I just documented it. She made a mistake. She made a choice, several choices. All of them documented. Camilla tried to throw her coffee at Cooper, but her aim was poor. The coffee hit Gina Novak instead, who had been approaching from the other direction. You little bitch! Gina screamed, lunging at Camilla. The two women grappled on the courthouse steps while a crowd gathered. It took 2 bailiffs to separate them. This is your fault! Camilla screamed at Cooper while being restrained. My fault! I didn't throw the coffee. You started this. I started this? I didn't marry someone else. I didn't send gloating photos. I didn't steal money. I didn't break into houses. I didn't get anyone arrested. You ruined her life. She ruined her own life. I just stopped enabling it. Isabella stood in the middle of the chaos, sobbing. I don't have anywhere to go. Camilla's apartment is barely livable. I can't afford my own place. Then you should have thought about that before you got married in Vegas, Cooper said. Please, Cooper, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Cooper looked at her, really looked. 3 years of marriage, and he was seeing her clearly for the first time. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry for the consequences. I know you are, Isabella. But sorry doesn't fix this. What am I supposed to do? Learn from it. Make better choices. Find someone who deserves what you put them through. Cooper walked away, leaving Isabella crying on the courthouse steps. The epilogue came in pieces over the following months. Isabella was fired from her boutique job after the arrest made the local news. Apparently, clients didn't want their marketing handled by someone who'd been arrested for breaking and entering. Charles lasted 3 weeks before he had the Vegas marriage annulled. He was last seen dating a casino bartender who'd moved to their city specifically to get away from Vegas. Cooper moved to a downtown condo with a river view. He sold the house where he'd been married. Too many memories, both good and bad. The new place was smaller but cleaner, simpler. He furnished it with things he actually liked instead of things that looked good in magazines. 6 months later, he met someone at a client's retirement party. Mark was a teacher, divorced, with joint custody of twin daughters. He was steady, honest, and kind. He laughed at Cooper's jokes and meant it. You seem different from most financial advisors, Mark said over coffee on their third date. Different how? Less intense, more relaxed. Cooper thought about it. I got rid of some baggage. Bad investment? Terrible investment. Took me 3 years to realize the returns were negative. Mark smiled. Well, their loss is my gain. Cooper's lawyer, Arthur, framed the Vegas marriage certificate and hung it in his office as a conversation piece. Best evidence I've ever presented, he told colleagues. The defendant literally photographed her own crime. On the 1-year anniversary of that 1:47 a.m. text message, Cooper received an unexpected visitor. Isabella stood at his condo building's front desk, looking older and tired. "She says she knows you," the doorman called up. Cooper came down to the lobby. Isabella was thinner, wearing a cheap dress he didn't recognize. Her hair was shorter, less styled. She looked like someone who'd learned hard lessons. "Hello, Cooper." "Isabella, how did you find me?" I asked around. "I wanted to talk to you." They stood in the marble lobby, surrounded by the quiet luxury of Cooper's new life. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the river sparkled in the afternoon sun. "What did you want to talk about?" "I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. Not because I want something, but because I owe you that." Cooper studied her face. "Okay. I was cruel. I was selfish. I took everything good about you and threw it away for nothing. Charles was nothing. The other guys were nothing. I had everything and I destroyed it because I was bored." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I've had a year to think about it. A year of living with the consequences. I'm working at a call center now. I live in a studio apartment with thin walls and no air conditioning. I eat ramen noodles and take the bus." Cooper nodded. "That sounds hard." "It is hard, but it's what I deserve. I played a stupid, cruel game with your life, and I won a stupid, cruel prize." "Which is," Isabella looked out at the river, then back at Cooper, "my life. This is my life now, and I earned every bit of it." They stood in silence for a moment. "I heard you're seeing someone," Isabella said. "I am. Are you happy?" Cooper thought about Mark, about their quiet dinners and easy conversations, about how Mark made him laugh without trying. "I am. Good. You deserve to be happy." Isabella turned to leave, then stopped. "Cooper, for what it's worth, I know I was wrong about you being boring. You're not boring. You're steady, reliable, honest. Those aren't flaws. I was too stupid to understand the difference." She walked toward the door and then paused one final time. "I hope he appreciates what he has." "He does?" Isabella nodded and left. Cooper watched her walk down the street toward the bus stop, a small figure disappearing into the afternoon crowds. He went back upstairs to his condo, where Mark was making dinner and the twins were doing homework at the kitchen island. Real life. Good life. Earned life. Cooper's phone buzzed with a text from Mark. "Dinner in 20. The girls want to show you their science project after..." He typed back, "Perfect." And it was. Outside, the river flowed past his windows, carrying away everything that didn't matter, leaving only what did. Cooper had learned something valuable in that cold midnight hour when his phone had buzzed with Isabella's cruelty. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing. He'd lost a marriage, but he'd found himself. He'd lost a wife, but he'd found a partner. He'd lost his sad little world, and he'd built a better one. The Vegas marriage certificate hung in Arthur's office like a trophy, but Cooper didn't need souvenirs. He had something better, a life worth living, with people who deserved it. Isabella had been right about one thing. It was time for him to have a blast. He was finally ready for it.